miles an hour. Alright. Now give me a nozzle spacing that my boom is set up at.
40 inches.
40 inches. Good. Okay, now I'm not going to use too much of the chart, but I've got to figure out, first thing I have to figure out, what nozzles am I going to use for this? Okay. Well, somebody would have to get out a calculator to help me out here, but if I'm looking at 12 gallons per acre and I know my conversion is 5940, I can calculate my gallons per minute because I know that's 6 and that's 40. So can anybody calculate that out in terms of, take 12, multiply by 6 by 40, so my GPM is, so 12 times 6 times 40 divided by 59.
That's coming with 2.06.
That's probably going to be too high. 12.
Times 240.
No, maybe that is okay. It seems high to me. 70 times 7. Yeah, it's going to be
0.48.
0.48? I need a confirmation on that?
Confirmation.
0.48. Okay. Now what I need to do is find a nozzle, pick a nozzle in here, that's going to give me approximately 0.48 nozzles of gallons per minute within the range of expected operating. I don't want it at the far end or the high end or the low end because I might change my speed and I can't adjust. So I go back in here and I go, well, what nozzle is going to give me about 0.48? Well, a TK4 will give me a 0.4 at 10 psi. That's not too bad. A TK3 will give me a 0.3 gallon per minute at 10 psi. So either one of those would be fine. And if I look at the range, 0.48 somewhere between 25 psi. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's go with a TK4. TK4 nozzle is designed to give me 0.4 gallon per minute at 10 psi. Okay, so that's the nozzle selection. Now, if I want that application rate of 12 gallons per acre, and I'm traveling at 6 miles per hour, and I've got a pressure transducer that's giving me a value, what pressure do I want to be operating at? What pressure do I want to try to work so I can give myself 12 gallons per acre? Well, that should be pretty easy because I need 0.48, right? And I know, so that's going to be my Q. My square root of P, well, P is what I'm trying to figure out to give me 0.48. But I know my pressure 10 psi will give me 0.4. So, help me out here. If I take 0.48 over 0.4, that's 1.2, right?
0.12. Oh, wait, yeah.
1.2, right? That's okay. That's okay. So that's equal to 1.2. Okay. Now, if I square 1.2, I get 1.44.
1.44.
Right. And so P over 10 is equal to 1.44. Now square both sides. So for P is equal to 14.4 psi. Okay, that's nice. So I can design my sprayer control system, my variable rate application, to say when I move into this zone where I want 12 gallons per acre, I know my pressure's got to be 14.4 psi. And I can change it. Now if I'm into a zone of 15, I'm going from 12 gallons per acre, but I'm into a new management zone that now needs 15 gallons per acre. Maybe more fertilizer, maybe more pesticides, for whatever reason. I calculate my new gallon per acre. Throw it into this equation here, get a new pressure. And now I'm adjusting my equipment, and I'll talk about this, how we do that, to get that new pressure. And that's how I change my rate. That's how variable rate is a pressure-based flow control system. Now, if I want to look at a flow-based flow control system, wow, how do you do that? Okay. Well, I know my flow here, right? So I'm going to wipe this out. And I no longer have a pressure transducer that's giving me the pressure that I'm working with. I now have a flow sensor up here that I've got to figure out. And I've got to figure out how many pulses per second do I want out of that. Well, if I've got 0.48 gallons per minute, what time we got left here? I'm going to watch.
12:03.
12:03. Okay, I'm going to talk about this for a minute. If I've got 0.48 gallons per minute, I've got to figure out how many nozzles are on my boom. Ezra, you're pretty good at telling me stuff, so how many nozzles are on my boom?
Let's go with 6.
6 nozzles. So the flow rate that I want through my flow sensor is going to equal the flow out of 1 nozzle times 6. So I'm going to be shooting for 8, 4, 28, 2.88 gallons per minute total. Which is how many liters per second? That's a gallon per minute. Okay. And we know that there was a 3.875 liters per gallon. And we know that there are 1 minute over 60 seconds. So if I multiply, and I'm going to need help with that one, multiply all that out, I get so many liters per second. Who's got that? Somebody's working on that.
0.186.
0.18. 0.186.
Confirmed.
Confirmed. Okay, so that's the flow rate I need to go through my hose. Now I converted to liters per second because my calibration is still 3,200 pulses per liter. So if I multiply this times 3,200, if I get this right, I got 30 seconds left. 3,200 pulses per liter, that should be a pulse per liter. And I multiply those together, I get so many pulses per second. I need a number.
$595.2.
595.2. I can go 0.2. So what I do is I take my valve and I open it and close it until my flow sensor here, that little flow meter, spinning, spins at that rate. And if it spins at that rate, and all these are, I know my nozzle size, if it spins at that rate, then it'll give me an average of 0.48 gallons per minute out of each of my nozzles. And it will give me my desired application rate. And so that's 2 ways, and that's a flow-based sprayer control system. I'm using my flow meter instead of a pressure gauge to control the application rate coming out of my sprayer. Okay. I think that's all I have time for.